Good day, dear listeners. This is a cold opening to today's podcast. This is Mags here just by myself, and I just wanted to say to you that I apologize having edited this podcast now for my really bad cold that I probably shouldn't have been recording a podcast with, and also Kaylin used a different mic, so you might hear some bustling sounds. I've been trying to cut it out as much as I can, but alas, there are some left in there. I still hope you enjoy this week's podcast episode. I do think it's a funny one, and you're up for a treat. Alright, all the love. I feel like I could take Charles III in a fight.
You versus Mr. Sausage Fingers.
Anyways.
You will catch these sausage hens, Mags. Anyway.
Catch these hands! It's like,
catch these sausage fingers.
Sausage fingers?
Oh, we are losing the plot, dear listeners, and we're barely into this episode. Good day, and welcome to Two Girls, One Corset, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of period dramas, from bodice-ripping romance to scandalous court intrigue.
I'm Mags, your resident historical costumer and hopeless romantic.
And I'm Kaylin, a public historian and self-proclaimed Bridgerton maiden. Despite my great passion for history and drama, I have yet to watch a single episode of Bridgerton.
And that is exactly what we're doing on this podcast. Watch and review each episode of Bridgerton, giving you our unique perspectives on the characters, costumes, and historical intrigues.
So grab your corsets, boil yourself a cuppa, and join us as we take a trip back in time to Regency-era England with Two Girls, One Corset. Let's get started.
Hey, hello. This is exciting. We took a break last week because, as you might be able to hear, dear listener, I am not doing well. I lost my voice last week, and it is barely back, but, you know, we love you, and we want the episodes to go out as normal, so we are back on the air. How are you, Kaylin?
I am doing pretty well. I thankfully have gotten my dear Sean into Bridgerton as well, and he has been experiencing all 5 stages of grief, watching this up and down courtship between Simon and Daphne, and
yeah,
just like I am curious to see how this ends, he is now on this journey with me.
And it is funny because you guys just watched the episode we're talking about today, so that's really exciting. Well, shall we jump right into it, Kaylin?
Absolutely. So,
woohoo! We're on episode 4. It's called An Affair of Honor. And we are throwing ourselves right into it. Daphne and Violet are at the Queen's Palace. Everybody in the castle is talking about Daphne. And Violet is very relatable eating all the food. Honestly, that's the most relatable thing I've seen in any period drama, I think.
Absolutely.
I feel like we would have done... I don't know. I feel like you would be too nervous to eat the food if you were invited to the Queen's house.
I feel like yes and no. I would be super nervous, but I can relate to wanting to sneak the food because I get hungry when I get anxious, or not even hungry. I'm just a nervous eater. Like, you
get snacker.
Yeah, I'm a snacky. So
snacktious.
I'm snanktious. Snacktious.
Snack anxious.
Yeah. But Violet, we'll see, kind of goes through quite a bit of helping herself to various refreshments throughout this episode,
which is honestly just fine. I'm so here for it. Daphne's horrified. She's like, "Mother, you can't eat the food," but I think it's hilarious. But they're interrupted really quickly as the Queen and the prince is making an entrance.
I feel like
the Queen is wearing. What?
We still can't decide on how to do his accent. It keeps coming out Swedish.
It's just gonna be Germanic, honestly. The umbrella term Germanic. That is the prince in Bridgerton. The prince is coming dressed. He is very happy in his normal suit, and the Queen, she's wearing this beautiful gown that's blue. I remember this. It's so beautiful. Well, the prince says to Daphne as he comes in, "I find myself in rapture over your acceptance to my invitation to the palace."
Yes.
I love him so much.
He's honestly really underrated, although tragically, every blonde love interest is failed to be forgotten, as we know at some
What
point.
is up with the hate to blonde love interests? Like, that is my question. Which is like, you know, I'm working on my drag character right now, and like he's been wearing like a Georgian wig for like the most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, yeah, and I'm trying to decide if he's a blonde or if he's a brunette because I'm also making like a Regency costume for him. And it's like if he's blonde, I know that it's like he's gonna have a tragic end, which is kind of funny and on brand. But if he's brunette, then it's just like a basic love interest.
I don't know. He gives me your character, your persona gives me blonde vibes. So
Are you telling me that I'm a hopeless romantic and I will die alone?
I mean,
The silence says everything.
there was no coming back from that. I'm sorry. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean you will. It means that maybe your persona will. Like,
Yeah,
Herr Sven Sexa.
I just found Sexa.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. But yeah, no, I feel for the prince. My character is nothing like the prince because I mean I adore both of them, but the prince, he has this beautiful gift for Daphne, and it is the biggest necklace I've ever seen.
It's moments like this where I truly think my love can be bought. Because I see something like that and I'm like, I will have your children, sir. I will learn German and we will live in Berg Eltz together. I don't even know if anybody.
Yes, I will move to Prussia with you.
I don't even know. He's like, no one has lived in Berg Eltz in a while. I don't think that's historically accurate, but like, no one has lived in Berg Eltz in years. I will move there for you if you wish.
I love him so much.
He's really
He
sweet.
can tell me, it's like, I don't know, we're moving to Antarctica. Actually, Antarctica wouldn't be that bad, but if he told me, like, we're moving to, like, Italy or Spain or something like that because it's really hot and I can't stand hot climate, I'd be there because he's just so cute.
You're just like, I will adopt some penguins and we will raise them together. Okay, I need to stop before I get too far with this, but
No, it's
yeah.
wonderful.
But I realize, dear listeners, that the prince is actually played by the same actor who played McLaggen in the Harry Potter movies.
The thing is, I used to be a real Harry Potter fan, and you told me this a few days ago, and I don't know who it is. Like, I couldn't tell you.
He wasn't that big.
In a way, good for me. Good for me. I am letting go of that drama, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyways, but we can, like, they're making, even though the prince is like our little princey prince, he is very clearly not Daphne's love interest because the entire time he's putting on the necklace, she's imagining that it's freaking Simon breathing into her ear and is very seductive
and brushing his fingertips against her neck.
Yeah, and as she's like having like a small orgasm standing there, the prince says, "Miss Bridgerton, are you quite well?" And she just snaps at him. She's like, "Yes, I'm fine. It's beautiful." Everyone is like agog and aghast that Daphne's gonna become a princess because like I don't really know like the rank here. Like I know a viscount or like a viscount's daughter is not that high up in the pecking order when it comes to like aristocrats, but they're basically talking about Daphne and Violet as if they're almost social pariahs, which I don't know, that doesn't really check out for me, but fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose, but it clearly has been striking a nerve with Daphne in some way because as soon as Violet and Daphne get home, Hyacinth is bombarding her sister with questions like, am I going to be the sister of a princess? Will you have to learn Prussian? Which Daphne's like, it's German. Educate yourself. And will she have to wear a crown on special occasions, perhaps? And she basically says, like, why aren't you minding your business? Go talk to your governess. And she's like, my governess has the same questions.
Honestly, all the important questions. Will you wear a crown? Like, same. It's like, I'd be asking that too. So
I would
honestly,
want to know.
Hyacinth, you go. You go. I want to know too. Like, I want to wear a crown occasionally. I have a crown somewhere. Now when I'm talking about it, I'm sitting here looking around for my crown. I can't remember where I put it. Huh. Oh well. I'll have to dig that out. Special for the Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's audio. They would never know if you weren't actually wearing it. You could just say, I'm wearing my crown right now.
Actually, I went to the Tower of London and stole the crown jewels,
Moriarty.
and I am kind of waiting for Charles II to come give me a title in Ireland somewhere.
Charles II would be chill about it, but would Charles III be okay with that?
I feel like I could take Charles III in a fight.
You versus Mr. Sausage Fingers.
Anyways,
You will catch these sausage hens, Mags. Anyway,
catch these hands. It's like
catch these sausage fingers.
Sausage fingers.
Oh, we are losing the plot, dear listeners, and we're barely into this episode.
I mean, this is definitely a reel.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Someone out there is gonna get really upset that we're talking about the monarchy like that.
Not our fans. If I know our fans, they will find this hilarious.
Mm-hmm. But it's always somebody that has no business like being on the page who's never found it. That'll be the first thing he finds, and he's like, "Excuse me." Anyway, so Daphne,
yeah, the Duke is as Daphne is like beating off questions about the Duke is beating up a bag. Is it just me, or just that bag have a German accent? Says Will, his buddy slash trainer slash buddy boy. I don't know what the heck he is really to the Duke, but I'm here for it because they can't have come from the social class or background. So I don't really know how they make, considering. Okay, how did they meet? Because like the Duke has been on like a extended grand tour, right? And Will can't possibly have gone to like Eton or any of the universities.
I don't know.
Considering his background. I'm like, how are you two friends? How did this happen?
Oh, well,
either way.
I think that Will is his boxing tutor in a way. So Simon ranks higher than him, but I think from that they just sort of became friends because I think Simon is the sort of person to kind of look beyond rank. But
maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, we love Will, and we also love his wife, Alice.
Oh, we love his wife even more. I love a quote that she says, "You don't love me for my subtlety," and I'm like, that's me. That's me. My friends would never love me for my subtlety because it's non-existent.
And Simon tells Will that he's leaving England, but Will says that he's at risk of losing business if Simon doesn't show up to the match, because if people see Simon showing up to Will's match, then people are going to assume that Will has a better shot, so he agrees to show and to help his friend.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really extended conversation, and it all ends with, like, Will's wife being the one who actually convinces him, which I think is hilarious. I love her.
She's great.
Marina, on the other hand, on the other side of town or the country, because she is in Bath. I'm just kidding.
Other side of the Tonne.
On the other side of the Tonne. Marina's getting assessed to be wifed up by a new gross McGrossface who has none of his own teeth, but all soldiers' teeth, and he says you can tell a lot from a person's mouth as he's like looking Marina in the mouth, and I'm like, my dude, you don't even have your teeth. What does that say about you?
So icky.
Kaylin, my question for you here is, what would people say if they looked at your teeth? What can people tell from your teeth?
I'm imagining, like, instead of a palm reader, you have like a teeth reader. Which I guess is basically just a dentist, because they look at your teeth and they're like, I see gingivitis in your future. I think they would just see that I'm stressed a lot, usually for no good reason, because I grind my teeth a lot.
Uh-huh.
But you can tell that I'm stressed from looking at any part of me. You can get within 5 feet of me and just feel like the radioactive waves emanating from my body, and they're like, ew, what is that?
Well, specifically teeth. My teeth, I have like an old tooth gem residue still in my tooth. I'm getting that removed. I'm talking to my dentist on Friday. My dentist being my friend Artie, who will have no business listening to this podcast. But he was going to help me remove it. So they will be like, wow, she's sloppy.
Well, Artie actually asked about the podcast not that long ago. So who knows? Artie could be listening to this. Yeah.
Oh.
So, Artie, if you're listening... Hello.
Hey, Artie. We love you. Artie, we adore you. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, people probably think I'm pretty good at brushing my teeth, though. I am actually
Me
obsessive
too.
about brushing my teeth, I think. I brush my teeth as often as I can. It's just like a nice feeling to have clean
Yeah.
teeth.
As you should, folks.
Well, the old dude will not ask any questions directly to Marina, which is just like really creepy. And also, I mean, when he leaves, um, Lady Featherington like justifies the choice she has made to wife her up with this gross McGross face by saying that the old dude, will like not ask any questions if Marina has a child 6 months after the wedding because he just wants an heir, and that's logic. I find that kind of logical as well. Like that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like you need to marry someone, and you then it's probably good to not marry someone who won't ask any questions
Yeah.
in this situation, right? Like it's what you do what you gotta do. So like even though Mrs. Featherington seems kind of bad in this, I must say that
Mm-hmm.
she's really smart because like she's in a situation that she can't get out of because her husband is a train wreck. And we find out later in the episode has gambled away all the money, so they have to keep this
Mm-hmm.
teenage girl who is also a hot man. How did you feel about Mrs. Featherington?
It's tough because, like, I can see the convenience of the situation, but also this guy triggered my fight or flight response, so
Yeah,
it's hard. Desperate times do call for desperate measures, though. So, plus,
yeah.
I don't know. He's the sort of old guy that probably isn't going to be around too long. So soon you can probably gallivant off with your pool boy.
Honestly, like Kaylin, I feel like we're on the same place. We're kind of on the same like mental space here. There's like people like I could never marry for money. I 100% could marry for money. That being said, I am a romantic, but
Mm-hmm.
still.
Well, you all. This is what my sister always told me. You married the first time for money and the second time for love until she married for love the first time.
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna say.
yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
it is what
while,
it is. Well,
yeah.
we have an introduction of a new character. His name is Mr. Finch.
And he's sneezy, like the
He
dwarf.
is sneezing all over the freaking flowers that he's giving to Philippa Featherington.
And they're all shocked that Philippa actually has a collar. But they're both
It's
a
insane.
little bit awkward. They both seem a little bit nerdy, and it's honestly cute. I really like the two
It
of
is really
them.
cute.
Yeah. And it,
I do enjoy two nerds together, and
mm-hmm.
that's what they're giving. Well, speaking of two nerds, I must scream at Eloise a little bit.
Yes.
Eloise, I must correct you, male birds squawk for attention, not female birds. Get your avian creatures in line for Pete's sake. Like she's here, all here, like, oh, why was me behave like birds and try to get men's attention? I'm like,
Squawking.
stop! No, that's not how birds work. Stop it.
And she
Hi,
wants to
I'm done
spread her
screaming.
wings and fly. They really milked that
Stop.
bird. They milked that bird
They,
metaphor.
yeah, it's very much in your face. Birds. Am I right? Birds.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
But
Anyways, and they're nagging about having to get married, and Penelope's obviously kind of like she seems really uncomfortable about this discussion. Meanwhile,
mm-hmm.
Eloise is like, "Yeah, you agree with me, right? Yeah," like not even hearing her friend out, which is. I mean, I'm kind of like Eloise in that sense too, where it's like sometimes I forget to listen, but still, it's just really frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very obvious to see that there's sort of an imbalance of dynamics between Eloise and Penelope. I feel like it's very
Oh
common
yeah,
to kind of have like a dynamic where you have the person that has the tendency to steamroll and you have the person that has a tendency to be steamrolled, steamrolling, steamrolled.
Stimrolt.
But they are discussing the fact that Daphne is getting all of this attention, and although Eloise is tired of Daphne getting all this attention, she also doesn't really want Daphne to get married because then that attention will fall to her next season when she comes of age.
Yeah.
And she discusses how she admires the freedom that Lady Whistledown has as an
Yeah,
author.
to do whatever she wants, which, fair enough. Fair enough. We
And
don't know too much yet.
that she tells Penelope that they should meet her and figure out who she is.
and learn her secrets.
Which Penelope makes some excuses to get out of this investigation. So, to be honest, I have a suspicion that Penelope could be Lady Whistledown. But I could also see Penelope not being Lady Whistledown because she's quite young and naive. Because Lady Whistledown seems like somebody that's a bit more experienced in life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, someone who is very witty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Anthony decides that the best way of action here is to bring Daphne to a boxing match and acting as a wingman to set him up with the cute prince. And the prince, he very nicely said, Miss Bridgerton, I am delighted to see you here today, although I am surprised.
Which he did kind of lose my favor for a bit because he said he was surprised that that like a lady would want to come to the match, and he thought that women would be too sensible for such things. But Daphne shoots back, and Daphne kind of shoots back in a fun way, and she's like, comparing it to women elbowing each other for silk at the Modiste, or Target on a Black Friday sale, or Target during a Black Friday sale for our modern viewers.
Okay, you remember when she punches Lord Earbrook in the face?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All I keep thinking is that I was like, where did Daphne learn this? How did this come to be? And
That's
all I
fair.
keep thinking then is that Daphne learned how to freaking box and punch and kick at the Modiste picking out fabrics. Which, it's now canon. I can just see her rocking up to Modiste in her wagon, and she's just like, watch out, ladies, don't take my fabrics. And she's just like, punch, punch, punch. Thank you.
I bet Cressida Cowper probably had a couple knocks to the nose.
She knows Daphne's right fist, is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, she must have learned it somewhere, and now I'm starting to think I might know from where. But yeah, and they are sitting and they're flirting. It's really cute. And okay, my gosh. So it's also okay. So I must say that the prince is the freaking cutest character. Again, like, I am so here for the prince. He's like, I want to have as many I want like to have many children if my wife allows it, which is like so cute that he's considering her like the woman's capacity for bearing children, because like that's not a given that a woman can bear a lot of children, or maybe even want to bear a lot of children, which is like, you know what, the prince is everything. I will die on that hill. The prince is the best character in Bridgerton season 1.
Genuinely deserves better. Protect him at all costs.
Better.
Back in the 2014 Tumblr era, there would be like pastel edits of him in a flower crown. That was like a big trend seriously. Tumblr would do back in the day, to like take precious characters and put them in flower crowns. Oh no, I'm just explaining to listeners for context. Do not speak to me of the... I was there when it was written.
You cannot understand the asylum I was brought up in. That's not the meme. But whatever. Seriously.
It's from that, we mixed the Narnia bit and the Taylor Swift song, but we don't want to get copyright struck because Miss Swift will act swiftly. Anyway.
Well, the entire time the prince is sitting being the absolute cutest TM, the Duke and Daphne are like making sex eyes at each other, and the Duke is like rolling up his sleeves, and it's just like, just all female gaze over there. I'm like,
absolutely.
My goodness.
Like, I was explaining to Sean the impact of the female gaze. Like, it's truly quite simple what will get us excited, that a lot of people just don't understand it. Rolled up sleeves.
They just don't understand.
Is a weapon of mass destruction.
What gets my female gaze is the prince being so thoughtful and lovely and so cute. I don't know. Mm-hmm. When you compare the two, I'm like, prince all the way. Oh well. Well, Will is beating the crap out of the other dude, and Lord Featherington like is getting stressed, and we very quickly learn why he's seeming so stressed in the corner. And it's because he's freaking broke, and he loses the bet that he has for the dude that Will beat up.
Mm-hmm.
And now he can't repay the other people that he owes money to.
Ew.
So he is like Anthony level stressed.
Yes. And then in the drawing room, while Simon and Anthony are having a conversation, the artist Granville goes back to Benedict and starts asking Benedict what he thinks about his work.
And it is the most sassy flirting I have ever seen, and I'm so here for it.
Mm-hmm.
And Benedict is throwing punches without having done any art himself. And Benedict wants to swing by Mr. Grant's art studio, which, you know, what says is I think that, yeah. Anyways, I'm so here for it. I love
Mm-hmm.
Benedict. Everything with Benedict. Eggs Benedict. Um, Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Bridgerton. Benedict
Arnold. Ew, no, actually.
Arnold. Benedict. No, I will take Benedict Arnold. Outlander's version of Benedict Arnold. I'll take him. Benedict.
Not the Turn Washington Spies version. If for those of you out there, if you know, you know.
Okay. Well, Benedict in all shapes and forms and sizes, and yes, the Benedict is all I'm saying. And Anthony and Simon are being best friends a little bit again, like in the studio. This seems like, yeah, since Daphne has moved on from the Duke, they're like can be cool again, which is like super fair. I feel like Pajama Club is back on the table.
Yeah, they probably had their first meeting in a while.
They
Ever
did
since,
that night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Benedict brought the tea. He's like, I have been talking to this art guy. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? And then they're like, oh yeah, I'm not seeing Daphne anymore because she's marrying the prince. And they're like, oh, that's great. Love that. Let's never talk about this again.
Yeah.
You know, kind of bring down the mood. Any hoosers. The prince quite interrupts though their conversation, and he's like, Lord Bridgerton, might I have a word? And we all know what that word is. And Simon, he looks absolutely horrified.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, back to the house. Violet is fuming over the fact that Daphne went to the match, and she's like, and it's really funny because they're all talking about like, oh yeah, no, I was to be wingmaned over to the prince, and da 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 da. And then one of the sisters comes in and is like, but what about the Duke? And everyone's like, yes, what about the Duke?
Yeah,
So
both
stressed.
Violet and Daphne at the same time were like, what about the Duke?
It's hilarious. Daphne apparently did not notice if he was at the match or not, which is like, my girl, you're making sex eyes. Like,
Yeah.
That was pornographic, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, Daphne is getting ready to look kind of croquet, and Violet comes into the room and she's kind of doubtful over the engagement.
We've forgotten.
Oh, we forgot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Anthony waltzes in and says that the prince has asked for permission to propose, or he's basically asked for her hand. But Anthony has said that he knows better than to answer for his sister, and says that he's awaiting Daphne's decision, and that whatever decision she has, or whatever decision she makes, he will approve.
He's like, I am not touching this with a 5-foot stick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving you to deal with that. Goodbye. I've done my duty.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like mildly excited about it. Then she's getting ready. She's looking kind of croquet with a bunch of bows. And Violet seems really doubtful over the engagement, but Daphne doesn't seem to care what the Duke thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne admits that it was a ruse, which like Violet is not buying because she knows her daughter. So she makes a comment because she puts on the necklace that the prince gave her.
Mm-hmm.
And she makes this comment that I feel like is just like commenting on her entire relationship to the prince, which is, it's a beautiful necklace, I should like it very much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not I like it very much, it's I should like it very much, which is just like an interesting choice of words for the writers. Kind of also commenting on the relationship she has to the prince, that she should like it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Doesn't necessarily, feels a bit uncomfortable with it because it's a big fat necklace. That's very obvious, and all the eyes would be on the necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that's not where she wanted. Anyways, it's just a very interesting choice of words. And
Absolutely.
as a writer, I was like, nice.
Yeah.
Well, Lady Danbury is working her magic to get the Duke to stay. She's like freaking always scheming. She's like, they're having like a really interesting conversation about like what in Bridgerton universe they call the Great Experiment, where when Queen Charlotte came and married King George III, people of color were welcome into the became like aristocrats, and they received titles and stuff. And they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of talking about this briefly. This is laid out more in Queen Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Lady Danbury is just really upset with the Duke. That's like, hey, you let this
Mm-hmm.
young woman slip through your fingers. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. She brings the realness in more ways than one. And
I love her.
I truly love her. I also really like, I do have to say, I really like, commend Bridgerton's casting for being so inclusive, because we do forget that there are examples of black aristocracy in Regency era England and throughout Georgian England as well. Because
Yeah.
granted, it was still not very common because of how prevalent the racism was at the time, but there are some examples. I love seeing examples in art, especially of high ranking
Yeah.
high ranking people of color.
One person that comes immediately to mind is Dido. She's a
Yes.
bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
She's late 18th century, I think. She was really cool. I was up in Kenwood where they had a display of the painting of her and her sister, I
Mm-hmm.
think it is. It's just such a beautiful painting. I remember we analyzed it when I studied English at university. It was really cool.
There
Um,
were, yeah,
well, yeah.
there's another painting I really like. I forget what it's called, but there's a white woman and a black woman standing next to each other. I believe it's probably early 18th century based on the way the dresses look. And they both have um like beauty marks with stars and moons on their faces, and it's like showing, you know, showing that they're both probably friends and they're both of similar rank, and it's just a very beautiful painting. If I can remember the name of it later, maybe I'll post it on the story on our Instagram page. But
Yeah.
yeah, so some people get really upset with the casting as a, very much as a way to mask racism, be like, oh, it's just not historically accurate, there wouldn't be people like this back then.
Yeah, but it's a fantasy land. Have you
Yeah.
seen the dresses they're wearing here?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, there are some historical examples of it, so you can take your racism and toss that out, buddy.
They're talking about that the king fell in love with a black woman, and love, your grace, conquers all, is what Lady Danbury is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the Duke responds, love changes nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
you can tell that he's clearly hurting and struggling, which is
Mm-hmm.
really sad to see. Well, either way, it is ball time, and it's Lady Townbridge and oh my, no, Throwbridge, and I must say, what a freaking queen! She's a widow um, who had a child. She was pregnant when her husband died, and gave birth to this like little child who became now the new Lord Townbridge, Throwbridge,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so funny. She's such a queen. She's throwing this like most scandalous party. Lady Whistledown is having a field day, where it's like, you don't want to be caught in the wrong situation here. Foreshadowing, foreshadowing,
Mm-hmm.
foreshadowing. Which is just so funny.
And
I adored it.
little classical music nerd moment. They're playing Second Waltz by, I think it's Dmitri Shostakovich. Freaking love that song.
You're such a
Iconic.
nerd.
It's such a good song. Anyway,
Well,
but yes, the aesthetic of this party is so pretty.
the aesthetic is absolutely insane. There are acrobats, there are people in cage. It's like people in cages. Like, that's gonna be a good party.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really bad, actually.
Yeah.
And the theme of the party was Stockholm syndrome.
Oh. Anyway, so
Well, Mr. Ew McEw face, I can't remember his name.
Rutledge.
He says, I shall take her for a spin. And he forces Marina to dance. She's not
Yeah.
happy. Mr. Finch comes up and he saves it, and like this shit sandwich is turned into like a really nice sandwich. And they start talking about cheese, Mr. Finch and Philippa, and
It's
I'm
really
just like,
cute.
it's such vibes. Like, you love cheese, I love cheese.
More true, pure love can never exist.
No, like, cheese. Man, like, I just need a person in my life who loves cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And just have someone I can talk to about cheese.
And then Lady Featherington gets very excited by saying that they might have two weddings this season, but Lord
Yeah,
Featherington says
she
that he
must be
doubts
relieved.
it.
Yeah. Well, Cressida is very clearly jealous of Daphne, and she's making some crude remarks. But then the prince shows up, and he is just the cutest cutie, and he's like, Miss Bridgerton, you look absolutely exquisite as always. And I'm like, yes, you are so cute. Please tell me every day that I look absolutely exquisite. And Violet in the corner, meanwhile, is necking freaking champagne. She is not having this. She's not pleased.
Oh yeah, she's downing it like there's no tomorrow. She's
Violet is the
yeah.
most relatable character in this episode.
Yeah, she is housing that stuff. It's iconic,
she said,
honestly.
she said, "How quick can I find the bottom? Look at me go. Can I fit this entire glass in my mouth? Let's go." Well, Benedict is, in the meantime, in the artist den, and he's finding a naked lady that's being painted. And there was this other lady that they kind of zoomed in on who was just so clearly supposed to be a bohemian and then made me want to puke. It's just stylistically, it annoyed me. It annoyed me so much. I don't know what was wrong, but anyways. Ah, and also, oh, look at her haircut, look at her purple clothes. She's clearly a bohemian. Well, either way, Benedict is joining in, and he is smoking some sort of pot, and he is drawing charcoal pictures, and I am so here for him. Seriously. Well,
And
back at the party, the opera singer is at the soiree, and Anthony is hard time trying to keep it in his pants. Like, you can see that that man has a boner just looking at her, because she's also dressed really promiscuously at this party that
mm-hmm.
everyone's supposed to be in danger, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, Violet is trying to introduce him to a bunch of eligible ladies. Anthony's, like, barely looking at them. He's
Yeah,
like,
he's
yeah,
kind of
sure,
like cool beans. Yeah. Also,
cool beans. And
before we forget, back at the Duke's residence, he sees the painting that
oh,
he was admiring with Daphne from originally at Somerset House, and he asks, "Yuck, why is this? What is this painting doing here?" And the servant reminds him, "You requested to have it brought over from Somerset House, which was no small ordeal." He sees it and he flashes back to that moment when he and Daphne brushed hands.
almost touched hands. Well, yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. And also just like keep your staff, be nice to your staff. That's all I'm
Absolutely.
saying. Well, the opera singer, yes. And Violet is just like with the opera singer, with the whole like him being trying to introduce her child to eligible women, and then he's just fully ignoring her. She just like looks for the closest champagne flute, and then she goes ham. Which, you know what? I'm so here for you, Violet. Lord Featherington has told Mr. Finch something that Finch refuses to talk to Philippa after that, which is so sad. I feel so bad for
I
Philippa.
know. I wanted a cheesy romance between the two of them.
Yeah, no, that's what we all want. And it's just really sad. Well, Eloise is breaking and entering, and she's going through her maid's possession. Like this episode, like the themes here is just like Violet being an absolute queen, and people needing to treat their staff better because Eloise is full on breaking into her mother's lady's maid's room and going through her
Yeah,
possessions.
super uncalled for.
It's not cool, but it's because Eloise has gotten in her head that this is Lady Whistledown, that it must be a servant, and she tells the servant as much as like, "I think you're Lady Whistledown." The maid just laughs out loud, and she says, "You were supposed to be the smart one. You think a servant would have time to be Lady Whistledown, and also like, why would I keep this job if I was?" And I just thought that was funny. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but Eloise, she is. I agree. You're supposed to be the smart one. You're
Mm-hmm.
not, babe.
Yeah, it's a very humbling moment, which she rightfully earned. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, we cut back to the ball, and Colin has made an appearance, and he's talking to Penelope, and they're both pointing out that the widow Trowbridge's baby happens to bear a bit of a resemblance to her footman. They both,
Which, you know
yeah.
what? You go, Queen. I
Mm-hmm.
like her. I wish she had more character and growth,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I want to see that TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, Bridgerton, if you're listening, I did not need that season of Queen Charlotte. I need the season of the Footman. Lady Thornbridge. Also, Colin sees that Miss Thompson or Marina is struggling, so he saves her from Umic gross face, and they're dancing. And Penelope looks like she's in physical pain.
Yes, poor Penelope.
Yeah, but then the Duke is proposing.
Sorry, not the Duke, the Prince. The Prince is dancing with
Sorry,
Daphne,
the Prince.
and he's trying to.
The Prince is proposing.
He's trying to propose to Daphne.
He's trying to propose to Daphne. You see things in me
that nobody else sees.
Sees.
My teeth don't grow back.
My teeth don't grow back. We need to find oranges.
But yeah, so clearly, but it's funny because they're trying to like have this conversation in the middle of a dance where they switch partners like every 3 seconds. So imagine he like spins around and accidentally proposes to the wrong woman.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if he's so polite, I feel like if that happened and he accidentally proposed to the wrong woman, he would be like, well, this is my wife now.
This is my wife now. I am one of her 5 wives. Husbands, I mean. Sorry, I love the Swede from... We just need to make an episode where we get all our Swede out. It's like a bonus episode, like Christmas special.
Patreon exclusive. Blow this up so we can become popular enough to start a Patreon, and then we will have absolute shenanigans on there. Absolute crazy hijinks.
It will be me and Kaylin just talking about how much we love the Swede from our Flag Mean stuff. Exclusively. And how disappointed we are that it got cancelled.
We'll start a spin-off podcast called Two Swedes, One Boat or something.
You're not even Swedish.
Hey, I'm ancestrally... I have Swedish heritage, but that's something that like every white...
No,
that's something every...
Swedes, one orange.
That's so good. But, you know, every American with like 0.5% DNA from a European country is like, you know, I actually am this. Fun fact about my Swedish heritage, actually. My great-great-great grandmother was a lady's maid for an English woman, and they actually had tickets to go on the Titanic. But they missed the boat. They watched it sail away.
It sounds like the origin story for Lady Button from Ghosts.
Basically, missed the Titanic. Maybe Lady Button was my ancestor's employer. Who knows? But
seriously.
But yeah, so...
Anyways, we're talking about Bridgerton, not Ghosts.
Anyway, that's another podcast.
Stuff.
Yeah, that's another
podcast. That's another season.
Anyway, so...
While
Daphne is spinning across the ballroom, she spins and sees Simon. And then the prince attempts to propose, but she rushes off. She needs a moment. She goes out into the garden, rips off the necklace. And who arrives but Simon?
Full-on panic attack.
Oh, yeah.
Full-on panic attack, and he's like, I wanted to say goodbye, and they're having it out, and as your apology has no effect on my life, I shall marry the prince, and I shall be very happy.
And he asks if she'll really be happy.
Oh my gosh, and it's like, because the entire season, people have just been questioning Daphne's life choices, like, Anthony's been questioning it, Violet has been questioning it. Her sister Eloise has been questioning. Everyone who means anything to Daphne has been questioning it. The only one who hasn't been questioning her is the Duke, and here he is questioning it. And you can see her frustration, and it's just so pure. Where she, even though it is hilarious to hear her scream, "I'm going to be a princess!" Like, it's just like the pure frustration of like everyone questioning her, not allowing her to make her own choices.
Yeah,
and I feel for Daphne.
Absolutely. And then she asks Simon, while he's just standing there silently, if he's going to say anything. And when he doesn't, she then tells him to leave. And then he still does nothing, so she storms off into the garden, and he follows after her. And he tells her to come back because it's not safe. And so he grabs her by the arm, and after a tense moment, locking eyes, they kiss. And pull apart.
And they are kissing. They are letting out all the frustrations, and it is
It's steamy.
wow.
He pulls away at
The
first and then he
dress is riding
apologizes.
up.
Yeah, he apologizes at first, but then she kisses him again, and then that's when they're like,
Yeah, she's
ew.
like, "Fuck it, I am having this."
Yeah. So it's steamy. He's pulling at her skirts, like full cup of tea's worth of steam right there. But then
Yup.
Anthony appears because, of course,
And he is not pleased. And you can tell that he had also been to the Modiste, helping out, fighting off women, because he just full on punches the Duke in the face. And he's like, "You shall marry her!" And the other one's like, "I cannot marry her!" Anthony demands satisfaction, which is like the lamest thing a man can do, and I hate this prompt in like historical drama. It's just like,
mm-hmm.
let me defend your honor. I'm like, shut up. But anyways, Anthony is such a hothead, but it's just really painful for Daphne because she realizes that the Duke would rather die than marry her, is what she gets from
Yeah,
this.
I would be offended too. I don't think I would ever be able to come back from that. And
Yeah, well, the
yeah.
Duke, he looks traumatized. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he looks horrified.
Yeah.
Which we later understand for like other reasons, is because he really likes Daphne and he's just
Mm-hmm.
concerned. But still, it's a really weird reaction. I remember watching this the first time and I was like, "What? Why are we? What? What?"
Yeah.
Anyways,
So Violet inside is absolutely plastered, and Daphne's rushing
she
back
is off her
in,
tits.
and she's, Daphne's head is like going a mile a minute, and Cressida is asking her, like, did you enjoy your walk in the garden? Which is like the last thing she wants to hear right now. And then we cut back to Benedict. Benedict is the last one in the
It is
studio.
funny. No, it is funny though. Violet makes a really funny comment.
Oh, yeah.
When she's like drinking champagne, she goes, "Champagne," which is like. She's the only one laughing at the joke. I'm laughing too, making Violet the most relatable character in Bridgerton. Anyways, sorry.
That's all
yes,
right.
Benedict.
No, I'm glad you brought
Benedict.
that up. Benedict, he's the last one in the studio, and he's going over his work. He's not quite pleased with it, but he enjoys it. And Granville tells him to be free to be himself when he is there and invites him back for more practice or perhaps conversation.
And they are flirty.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it.
Oh, yeah. The chemistry is thick.
The chemistry is chemistering.
Mm-hmm. It's chemistry.
Well, the Featherington is going through the office of Lord Featherington because she's just like, "Why haven't you not accepted Mr. Finch?" And do we get back to that? I can't remember if we come back.
We do come back to
Lord
that.
Featherington.
But they're going through the papers, and she and her maid are at it again, snooping around. And then we see Marina. Marina's fawning over Colin to Penelope, and it's very obviously striking a nerve with Penelope. And
yeah, she's just like, "Let me go to sleep and cry about this." And Marina's like, "He's so wonderful, I love him." And Penelope's like, "Yeah, take a cue."
mm-hmm.
Like, me too, everyone. For some reason loves friggin' Colin. I hate Colin.
Anyway,
Colin sucks.
There's tapping on the window, and it's Eloise throwing pebbles. And Penelope is already kind of fed up for tonight, and so she goes down to hear Eloise make some ridiculous theory about Lady Whistledown and how she couldn't be a servant because she wouldn't have the time to do it, and perhaps she's a lady. And Penelope just snaps. She says that she doesn't care. She has marriage to worry about. Basically, these things aren't worth her time, which Eloise is not pleased to hear.
Well, yeah, it's not great. Well, Anthony and Daphne are having it out, and I love what Daphne says. She says, "It is your male pride, your aim to satisfy." And I'm like, "Thank you." That's all what duels are about, and they're so stupid. Well, Benedict comes home and he's high as a kite, and he's supposed to stand as second, and he is not having it because he does not want to be head of the family, because like that's either way gonna be the outcome of the duel. Either Benedict is he's gonna lose his brother that he dies, or his brother gonna have to leave the country.
Well, and another
it's just like Benedict, his whole life is just falling apart in front of him.
Yeah, and like, another thing worth pointing out is somebody in the artist studio, I think Granville was actually saying like the whole joy of being a second son was that you don't have the responsibilities to worry about. So Benedict has just had this glimpse of a life that he could have, a life that looks and feels very fulfilling to him. And he's had it for maybe a couple hours and now it's about to disappear. So yeah, he's
And
panicking.
you can read that. Like, he doesn't have to say it. Like, the actor does a really good job there
Mm-hmm.
of just, like, you see everything he's
Yeah.
thinking. Violet arrives home, and Violet is violently drunk.
She's
And
plastered.
and Colin thinks it's so funny. Like, he's like giggling. He's like, "Mother, you are a train wreck. Go to bed." And Anthony and
Yeah.
Benedict calls Colin over, and it's so funny because they're like peeking out their heads as if it's like a freaking comic book
Mm-hmm.
scene. Is like, "Come here, psst, psst, come here," and Colin is just like, "Did someone die?"
Not yet, Colin.
He's finally
not yet.
invited to the sleepover.
Yeah, he was
He's
so
finally
excited.
invited to the sleepover, and it's really weird. He's so tired. It's like, "Let me go to bed, please."
Yeah. And we see Simon storms over to Will's place in search of a drink, and he confesses to his friend that he's going to a duel. And Will says that he's going to need a drink as well if he's going to be Simon's second.
It's just really dramatic. Well, Anthony, he's even more dramatic, and he goes to the opera singer, and if he wins the duel, he will take Sienna and leave the country, and he's like, "Come with me, let's be together, this is the way we can be together, this is my way out." Ah! And then they have, like, the weirdest make-out session ever in the doorway, and they're getting undressed in with the door
I know,
open,
it was driving me
and I'm
nuts. I
just
was like, just shut
someone close the door. Shut the door!
Because, like, at the very least, not for decency's sake, it looks chilly. It's cold.
It's just weird. It's just weird. When
Yeah.
Lord and Lady Featherington are in the office, she has found his ledgers, and she knows everything he's been doing, the gambling debts, the gamble away the dowries, and he just starts, like, she did not expect the reaction that he gave her. He just starts crying a lot.
Yeah, and he, like, goes to hold her, basically, and she's just kind of, like, apathetically patting him, kind of like, there, I guess. But she brings up some good points. She says that the reason they're housing Marina is because he owes Marina's father. And I also kind of like,
Yeah.
she holds him to account. She asks, what are you going to do about it? And, but that's kind of
Well,
at the
he's
point where he
obviously not gonna do
snaps.
anything.
Yeah, because he's just kind of like wilted over onto her, and she's like, okay, great. Well, this is our life. This is the situation we're in right now. So
Yeah.
we cut to Anthony.
It's not great.
Yeah, we cut to Anthony giving
Galloping
Sienna.
in the dark.
Yeah, he gives Sienna a tender kiss on the forehead and heads off to the duel. Simon and Will are also riding off, and Daphne is pacing in her room. She is stressing.
She's in her night clothes, and she decides to blackmail Colin to take her to the duel, and then she realizes that Cressida says that, "Oh yeah, I hope you didn't catch a chill in the garden, lol." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, she knows." So they're all just galloping in gray background to the dueling field. The Duke just wants to die. Daphne's riding really fast. Guns are being inspected. Anthony is so pissed, but also kind of excited. He's like, this is great. And all I could think about was Thomas Thorne's duel from Ghosts. Which was, it's just why my brain went there, and I was just like, Ghost is hilarious, but that episode is really sad.
It is really sad.
It is really funny. It has one of the best reaction gifs of all of Ghost's episodes, but still, it's so sad.
I do really love the bit where he's he doesn't have a glove with which to hit his opponent, so he's just like, may I borrow your glove?
It's like, may I borrow your glove? No, okay, imagine a glove. No, what the gift that I'm thinking about is when he, at the end of the episode, he, like, comes to peace with that it was his cousin that had, like, basically set him up to die, almost. And he's trying to get rid of the letter that was forged. But since he died with it on his person, it just keeps coming back to his pocket. And so he just screams, "Fuck!" And that's how the episode ends. It's the best.
Sorry. But not the episode of Bridgerton, dear listeners. We instead see Anthony asking Benedict to ensure that the papers are in order, and he says that there's a name of a woman with who he wants to be provided for after his potential passing. And then Will
Benedict is
yeah.
just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
please.
Benedict just wants to be back in the pajama club. Like,
Benedict is so done with the pajama club right now. He's like, guys, can't we just be friends?
I'm in a new pajama club
frick?
now. And
it's like, I'm leaving the pajama club, and it's gonna be with
Granville and the artist
guy.
The P in that pajama club stands for pot.
I thought you were gonna say penis, but okay.
Okay. Just the silence after I said pot like that. You were just like, I thought you were just judging me for making such a stupid joke.
Mine was stupider.
I'm going to have to put the explicit rating on this episode when I upload this to Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Will asks Simon if there's anything he needs to take care of, but Simon's affairs are in order. He took Captain Holt's advice when he was playing doctor as a child. The cancer has spread. Get your house in order. Anyway.
Well, yeah, and then they're about to shoot each other, and you can tell that the Duke is just going to accept his fate and get killed.
He aims his pistol at the sky. He's not going
to be killed. He's just like, nope. But then, Daphne rides into the duel and always gets shots and falls off her horse. And I'm like, wow. Okay, it's just very dramatic. I do find it funny that she falls off the horse because, like, I've done that too. When you've fallen off a horse and you're just lying there for a few seconds and you're like, just like, but then you get up. This is very that.
Yeah.
And she gets up and, oh my gosh, you guys are so stupid. What are you doing? I need to talk to the Duke. And they're like, you shouldn't talk to the Duke. I'm going to talk to the Duke. Screw you guys. So she goes talk to the Duke and she's like, we've been seen. You need to marry me or I will make you join Benedict's pajama club. I'm kidding.
Or basically, you know, they've been seen. She's going to be ruined if they don't get married. And at first Simon is kind of like, sounds like a you problem. And then she asks why he holds her in such low regard that they can't get married. But he says it's because he holds her in such
I hold you in such a high regard. And I'm like, bleh.
Yeah, sure, whatever. He then admits to her that he cannot give her children, which is something that Daphne
can't give
wants.
Her children.
She wants a family. And then
Daphne is still just like, my honor and my family's honor is on the line, so she's like, I will still marry him. Dramatic drums, boom, black screen, and the episode is over.
That is it.
Gasp. That is it. Well, dear listeners, what was your rating of this episode? I feel like it was a pretty good, like, if you look here at the statistics, like, I drank a whole lot of Diet Coke. Not Diet Coke. Oh my gosh, ew. I drank a whole lot of Pepsi Max. There was a lot of male character brooding. Lady Danbury interrupted with one slammer of wisdom. Eloise was an annoying pick-me girl. Someone allures to Lady Whistledown. Oh yes. Eloise,
so much.
All day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne wore 50 different dresses. Someone was naked. Yes.
Yeah, we had the models.
And there was a model too. Anthony is about to lose his mind 90% of the time. The Featheringtons looks outrageous. Yup. Queen Charlotte is on screen in her beautiful dress. And 10, you recognize the Vitamin String.
I don't think we actually had a Vitamin String song in this one.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but hey,
you recognized the song anyway, so that was, good for you. Well, so that was
we're basically we can do like a 9.5 because we had the waltz.
It was like a really good episode of Bridgerton because you had like the suspense.
It is very
good.
Everything
like I must say, like, this is like a peak Bridgerton episode.
Mm-hmm. I do think this is quite iconic.
And it's really good because we have a lot of Prince content.
Yes, it's very good.
Oh, I love him. Anyways, well, Kaylin, it's been great podcasting with you today. Shall we finish this off?
Let's! Thank you for listening to Two Girls, One Corset. If you enjoyed our podcast, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Two Girls, One Corset Pod for behind-the-scenes looks, updates, and more period drama content.
And be sure to share the podcast with your friends who love all things romance and historical drama. Until next time, keep your corset tights and your hearts open. Farewell, dear listeners.